Take another trip to the past and learn just how much the Clown Prince of Crime affected the life of Commissioner Gordon. All this and more on the pages of Joker issue number 10. Let's hop on in together and find out what happens next, shall we? So then, after the major jaw-dropping finale of issue 9, you may be surprised to realize that this issue is going to be another one and done that focuses on a story from the past. We pick up at the Gordon household not long after the events of Killing Joke. Barbara is still coming to terms with the loss of mobility, and she's lashing out at her father, who is also not taking it very well. Jim is supposed to also be on psychiatric leave following what happened to him in the events of Killing Joke, but almost as if he's trying to get away from his daughter, he decides to go into work early. As we hear from interim Commissioner Wojak, there's been a series of Joker copycat sightings all over the city, no doubt another reason why Jim wanted to get back to work ASAP. Gordon vows to do whatever it takes to hunt this guy down, even if he has to put together his own special task force. Of course, this doesn't go over so well with the interim commissioner, who can see plain as day that Gordon still hasn't gotten over what's happened to him, and they can't have him running around all kill crazy with a vendetta now, can they? Though he does openly say if they find the Joker first, they'll happily shoot him. Gordon is also skipping his mandated psychiatric evaluations, no doubt because he has a low opinion of psychiatrists, seeing as the one that tried to help out him and his wife couldn't save their marriage. The saddest part of this is that when Gordon is ultimately denied the chance to go back to work, the thing he loves, the thing he knows better than anything else in the world, he just opts to sit on a park bench for the rest of the day. That's not to say Gordon is completely cold and unfeeling. He feels bad about what happened with Barbara and buys her a big dinner to try and smooth things over. Gordon is ultimately shocked though when he returns home and sees, well, Barbara Sr., his ex-wife, who's come all the way from Chicago, and she's not alone. She's brought with him her son, James Gordon Jr. I gotta say, this is actually some really interesting retconning going on here, courtesy of Tynan and Rosenberg. I don't actually remember Barbara's mother being a big part of anything post-Killing Jokes, or having her show up now actually makes a lot of sense. And as far as James Jr. goes, he wouldn't end up getting recanonized until Black Mirror many years after the fact. Barbara Sr. has come here now because, well, she just can't put up with James Jr. anymore. Following Gordon's attack, he's become obsessed with the Joker. He won't stop talking about him, and it's getting to the point where it's starting to ruin Barbara Sr.'s own marriage to Martin, James Jr.'s stepdad, who by all account is absolutely terrified of his son. Barbara hopes that a hard-nosed cop Jim can set him right, and because of that, she's leaving him with his dad. Of course, we know from reading future stories that James Gordon Jr. is actually a little junior psychopath and soon-to-be serial killer in his own right, but Jim doesn't know any of that. When the kid breaks into his crime scene files and jostles the drawer in which Jim keeps his police sidearm, he just thinks he's a kid being a kid. Though trust me when I say he will live to regret the choices he's going to make throughout the rest of this story. It's at that point too Batman actually comes to visit the Gordon household. Batman's been pounding the pavement looking for the Joker following his most recent escape, but all he's managed to turn up is copycats. Gordon also has absolutely zero time for Batman, blaming him for what happened to Barbara in not so many words, while also not trying to give away what he may or may not know about Bruce Wayne's own secret identity. Come the next morning, Jim manages to bury the hatchet with his daughter, only to find his son is missing from his bed. Being a father and a cop, Jim understandably thinks that the worst is happening to him all over again. In a rare reversal of fortunes, this time around it's actually Harvey Bullock who's the cool-headed one, saying that if the kid was already having problems with his mother, now that he's in a new place, he probably ran off to smoke cigarettes or look at nudie mags or whatever teenage boys do these days. It's also here too we see the retconned first meeting of Gordon and Renee Montoya. She's still just a uniformed cop at this time, but she picks up Gordon when no one else will, knowing that because this is his son and his family, Gordon would no doubt follow this lead until the end of the earth, even if it ended up killing him. This is also a great chance to put in some fun Easter eggs all throughout the police scanner. I personally enjoy getting a name drop for Condiment King beginning his criminal career. But the big one comes though about word of shots fired over at the Dini skating rink. Ah yes, Paul Dini getting skating rinks named after him. What's not to love? Gordon and Montoya go to investigate, and it's right around here Gordon realizes that he doesn't have his sidearm anymore. Montoya covers him and gives him a gun so he can go on his own to try and confront the Joker, who he believes to have kidnapped his son. Of course, it's not really the Joker. Joker, it's that copycat who's been running around. Not that Gordon cared all that much in the moment, though. He was so enraged, so hurt, and so worried about losing another child to the clown, he was ready to shoot this guy dead before Batman stepped on in to stop him from making a horrible mistake. After the smoke clears, James Gordon Jr. swears up and down that he was kidnapped by this man who was trying to hurt the Gordon family more to honor the Joker. Only problem is, good old Gordon, the detective that he is, can already see that his son's story is full of holes. The copycat Joker had a fake gun, and people said that they saw this kid going along with him willingly. Batman also has a pretty grim diagnosis too. He ran the prints on Gordon's piece only to realize that there's two sets of prints on it, Gordon himself and James Jr., meaning he was the one shooting the gun. Batman also knows that Gordon has been ducking his psych evaluations and says that it's more important now than ever that not only that he gets psychological help, but that his son does too. And as the comic ends, we're left with the sad realization that, oh yeah, I guess none of that ended up working out for anybody, did it? And so that was Joker issue number 10, everybody, and while I was certainly a little disappointed at first that we didn't get to see a continuation of the main story, that's not to say this little flashback tale wasn't very interesting and multi-layered. What's particularly great about this series once again is that Tynion isn't afraid to show Gordon in a less than favorable light. He's a regular human being, not an aspirational superhero who needs to move a lot of merch like Batman, so we can see him fight with his daughter, make excuses for himself, and honestly fail up and down as a father to his son. He didn't get him the psychological help he needed early enough. Maybe that's because he was full of shame, maybe it's because he didn't think too highly of psychiatric care. Or maybe he didn't, and in the end none of it mattered because James Jr. was just evil from the jump. And maybe unlike so much of the other bad stuff that happened in Jim's life, this is yet another thing he couldn't blame on the Joker, even though he might very well have wanted to. Overall, a fun little one and done, but I really would have rather see the continuation of the main story, especially as I honestly don't know how much longer this book is going to go with Tynion not working at DC anymore and them not announcing a finale or cancellation. Rosenberg co-wrote this book. He's also co-writing the vampire book with Tynion. Maybe they're hoping he'll sub on in and take over. Who can say for sure? Overall, I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.